There we go. Good afternoon. This public hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication will now come to order. Notice the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on June the 5th, 2015, with a second notice provided on June the 10th, 2015. Notice of this hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. We have several bills on the agenda for this afternoon, and I will allow the sponsor of all four bills being heard this afternoon to give a sponsor statement for each one as we call them. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Bill number 67-33, which is an act to authorize the continuing appropriation of the unexpended balance of funds appropriated to the Controlled Substance Division. These LAP funds from this particular fund will be to support the activities of the division's Controlled Substance Program and the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program to combat the diversion of pharmaceutical controlled substances. And the amount that we received, and it was confirmed by the Department of Administration, was $21,850.19. They provided the account number as well for that particular fund and verified that that amount still exists. I know that the director and the staff came to our office requesting for this bill, and I also understand that you did receive a text basically saying that they would defer, but nevertheless, it was at their request in which we have introduced this bill, and we'll just have to take it then from there.
On Bill 67, there being no other persons here to testify, Bill 67 will be deemed heard. Bill 68, again sponsored by Speaker Wampat.
Bill 68 is an act to authorize the continuing appropriation of the unexpended balance of funds appropriated to the Environmental Health Fund for fiscal year 2009 and the Environmental Health Fund for fiscal year 2010. These two funds are slated again and to be used for the mosquito lab and also for field instruments to conduct environmental health inspections and investigations. The amounts provided by the Department of Administration and the account numbers for these two particular, the Environmental Health Fund, are $72,497.09, and the second for fiscal year 2010 is $89,146.40. And this, again, is at the request of the director and confirmed by the Department of Administration.
The chair will note that we did receive a email this morning from the Director of Public Health and Social Services acknowledging that they had requested this piece of legislation but are now deferring to the administration and will therefore not be submitting testimony on Bill 67 and 68. We will await, hopefully, some indication by the administration on both of these pieces of legislation. Bill 101, Madam Speaker.
Thank you again. In a letter from the Director of Public Health, which was dated on March 31, 2015, to myself, that the Director has requested recruitment of the Program Coordinator 4 from the BBMR. However, the recruitment document was returned by BBMR due to reference made to Public Law 28-187 and the Department of Administration's Organizational Circular number 07-023, which allows for the recruitment of competitive limited-term appointment positions only through federal grant or program resources. So for this reason, the Department of Public Health and Social Services appropriation of $75,000 for PC4 continues to be on hold, while the Bureau of Social Service Administration of BOSA is the child welfare agency that receives funding stream through Title 20, a federal grant. Hiring the PC4 position through its federal grant does not fall with Title 20 state plan goals and budgets. So Public Health has acknowledged that they have been participating in monthly meetings with DOE on the Early Childhood Education Planning Committee to address the phasing in of the 4 pilot school programs, and they recommended that the money then be shifted to DOE to supplement funds for the pre-K program. However, what we've done since we have in a bill, your bill, have appropriated then basically, or the reserve $1 million of the TFF for the pre-K program, is that there was a request by the department for 2 things. One would be to complete the printing of the Chamorro studies textbooks for the Chamorro classroom, Chamorro teachers, and at $60,000, and the remaining 15 then is to go to just slipped my mind. For an MOU on service learning with Island Girl Power. That's what I was trying to think of, and I've met with Juanita and of course with Carlotta on this MOU, and initially there was no funding at all, and what this would do is it would actually provide $15,000 for them to carry out that MOU between DOE for service learning to service the school children.
I understand, Senator Carlotta, that you are here to testify on this bill. You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and it's always an honor to be here. And it's an honor to be testifying in support of Speaker Wampat's support of the service learning MOU that we have created with the Department of Education. We have been involved with service learning since about 2011, 2012, and it went into effect during that year. Although it was passed in 2009, you guys, the legislature gave a startup date of 2011 and 2012. So that's when we got involved. We wrote several grants working with NOAA to stand up a website, to participate in the Service Learning Coordinating Council, to begin figuring out how to implement the law that was became the mandate. We've been working very closely with the Department of Education, and we came up with an MOU assigning they're going to do this and we're going to do this. And so what we have right now, the situation that we have is that 14,000 school children have to perform 20 hours of service learning every year for the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and their senior year, 15 hours, for a total of 75 hours. They cannot graduate, and they cannot go on to the next year until they've performed the sufficient amount of service learning hours. The idea behind this is to make the students realize that they can make a difference in their community now, using what they know and what they've learned in school now. So just to give you an idea of the value that has, I just took the 14,000 number, multiplied it by 20, and it's 280,000 hours a year of volunteer, healthy people that have to go out into the community and do good deeds. And then if you multiply that by just a round figure of 8, that comes to $8. That gives it a value of $2.2 million of what this law has the opportunity to translate into projects that will benefit our community. So what happened since we got started, we started putting our website together. We haven't launched it yet. We've had a lot of training, and we get close to launching it, but every time we have another training with principals and teachers and students, they ask to fine-tune it. They want more. They'll add another section to it. And so they want to make sure that the teachers have a role in making sure that the projects are approved projects. The students will have to get registered. The sort of degree of technical ability this website it has is at the request of everybody, is if there is a young man from Simon Sanchez down in the Molesso watershed on a Saturday for 3 hours, that will show up. If he's got a certain kind of iPhone or whatever that device is, it'll show up and show him tracking through the Molesso watershed from this time to this time to verify to his teachers, to the other, or to the groups of people that he's trying to gain support from, to say, hey, come and join me in the Molesso watershed, helping to spread the messages. So the website designer that we have been working with is Guam Webs, and they do the websites for the University of Guam with their registration process. They also handle the website for Rev and Tax. So they are used to dealing with large quantities and numbers of people that are coming in looking for information. And since the other thing that happened is, since we started marching this out and doing the trainings, is now we have the private schools, GCC and UOG asking to join. So it just keeps getting bigger before we launch, and it gets more specific and more people want to join. And so that's the situation that we have right now. And so all the money that's been put into this to date has been from NOAA, grant writing to NOAA, under the category of marine environment education category, trying to get kids excited into going into marine environmental projects. So this will be the first time that the government of Guam has put funds into the creation and the standing up of this service learning website. So I stand in full support of this appropriation.
No, I just want to thank you, because many times when people think about these service learning, that it's just, to do whatever kind of projects there are, but really in essence, and you broke it down, 14,000 for school children times 20, hours per child that they'll do in that year, and you multiply, of course, the minimum wage times, 2,080 hours, and
280,000.
280,000, you're right, hours, and that comes up to $2.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's phenomenal. That there's a lot of places who can't afford to hire some individuals, and I just think that this gives our students a head start in terms of planning a career and giving back to the community. So thank you very much.
And over the last week, I've had the honor and the pleasure of representing the legislature at the high school graduations. You really should attend them. Really. I mean, I went to the GW graduation the other day. Of the top 10 students, 5 were Marine Mania.
Yes.
The valedictorian was a Marine Mania person who spoke about saving the sharks and saying, if anybody has any questions, talk to me afterwards.
How wonderful.
But the valedictory and the salutatorian addresses of the 3 high schools that I've attended so far have been phenomenal. You would be so impressed.
I'm happy to hear
it's brought me to tears at all 3 graduations now, because the depth of character of the young graduates is absolutely phenomenal. So I know that they're limited space, but I've been very lucky to get in since I'm giving the resolutions. But to listen to their speeches, we should all be very, very proud of our young graduates. I just thought I'd give a plug for the young students that I've seen. This has been the best in the 10 years that I've been attending commencements.
That's quite a statement.
Anyway, all right, I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you. Anybody else on this bill? No? All right. We have one more bill, Bill 114-33, and I'll allow the sponsor to.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The sum of $750,000 in this bill then shall be transferred from the hotel occupancy tax, the hot bonds as they're called, surplus fund, the surplus fund, to the Guam Museum Fund, and is hereby appropriated from the Guam Museum Fund to the Department of Chamorro Affairs for the sole purpose of funding Guam Museum equipment, supplies, and capital outlay expenditures. And I'd like to thank you also for co-sponsoring this. When I first took on then now being oversight chair for the Department of Chamorro Affairs, I decided to go out and visit all of my departments and agencies, such as the staff in the museum, CAHA, the library, the Department of Chamorro Affairs, just to get an idea of where each of the departments are at. And one of the things that I've learned is the fact that because of some unforeseen delay in the building of the museum and the need now to put an additional 20 more pilings, that the whatever funds were set aside for the museum have already been expended. There are, however, broken down, and 750 is far cry from what it is that they're really needed. The theater itself, for stage lights, projection system, and sound system, was really estimated at $500,000, and I know that what the Department of Chamorro Affairs did was trying to see how they could still work at doing this by making some cuts and trying to live within their means, and have reduced it then to $460,000. Then there's the museum store, and that's for the AC lights, flooring, ceiling finishing, computer data outlets. And this museum, of course, is critical to any museum if they're going to be able to generate any funds to continue the museum from helping to finance their costs and the opening, of course, of the museum. And that's at $250,000, reduced to $200,000. Then there's the curatorial work and area provisions, which are lighting, cold room, plumbing, design fee for revisions, and that's at $76,000. And that is at $98,000. The specialty items such as storage shelving for artifacts, the multi-purpose room tables, chairs, curatorial tables, that comes out to $76,000. The media production are items for exhibit not in the contract. This is like a 5-day traveling exhibit, and that's at $208,000. Then additional A&E fees for the exhibit, the amendment, of course, of 2 and 4 extension, travel, extended services during construction, and the curatorial revisions fees, and all that, about $95,000 for the amendments, 2 and 4. The extended services during construction, $90,000, and the curatorial revisions fee, $18,000. What that all came out to is $1.3 million, and it's definitely very short when you think of $750,000 to meet then the existing monies that the museum is going to need to be fully operational. And everybody's looking at the museum to open next year, and my fear is that we're going to have a museum, but we're going to be minus all of these: the theater, the museum store, the areas for the shelving for artifacts, and other needs of to fully open a Guam and Chamorro educational facility. So I hope, of course, that then eventually our colleagues will see the need for this particular bill to support the museum.
Thank you. Can you provide that to the committee so that we can include it as part of the record?
Okay, well.
Okay. And I see President Cameron and Mayor Robert. Are you testifying?
No, we are. Oh. Our message said it was straight. So,
okay. Mr. President.
Hafade, Honorable Benjamin B.J.F. Cruz, Vice Speaker and Chairman for the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudications, as well as Speaker Wampat, who chairs the oversight of the Department of Chamorro Affairs and the other departments that are under its umbrella. I am here to support Bill number 114-33, Committee on Rules. I am providing you information that Bill 114 proposes to appropriate for equipment, supplies, and capital outlay for the Guam Museum. The numbers are slightly different, but not much, but it still totals the $750,000 amount. I did have an opportunity to further discuss yesterday afternoon with the designer of the museum to see whether or not the numbers were really tweaked the way they need to be in referencing the $750,000 for which I have provided in written testimony.
All right, we note that the testimony provided by the Department of Chamorro Affairs does have $480,000 for the theater, $220,000 for the museum, $40,000 for the repository of artifacts and storage, and $10,000 for the curatorial furniture, coincidentally equaling $750,000.
Thank you.
I just want to thank first Mr. Cameron for coming out, and I know we've had many conversations about this, and I know that they're definitely trying to live within their means, and I know that Mr. Cameron as well has reached out to the community to really help the museum to make sure that then we really don't have, a museum that's partially empty in terms of furniture for staff, but there are just very specific equipment and furniture that will be needed for the museum versus administrative, furniture. And that's what this bill is all about, is to be able, it's not to address, the administrative furniture. And is this also, because there was this discussion during recess and session when they were throwing this number of $552,000 that it was appropriated to the museum, but the information was not totally accurate because that money was specifically for positions, and they were even for part-time, half really of a salary of individuals to be hired and trained prior to the opening of the museum. So the $552,000 that was appropriated is not for the theater, the store, the repository, and the curatorial furniture. They're strictly for personnel, and I think that that's important that everyone understands that. And thank you very much, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry you got the wrong message. Okay. Thank you. This committee will stand in recess until 3:30, at which time we will hear the two other bills, one by Senator Frank Bloss and the other one by Senator Tommy Morrison. This committee stands in recess.